Oh, hang on. Broadcast is live. Oh, I've done my hair. Hang on a minute. Let me get myself.
Oh, my word. And you've got a crown on as well. Look at you, the Queen.
I am speaking to the King. So I'm in honour of your recent award that Peter Knight gave you. I thought I'd wear a crown.
Oh, my word. What can I say? How kind are you? Okay. You may even be the first guest to come back on again as a result of it.
You want me to wear something different next time?
Can I ask you a question, Gayle?
You may.
Okay. How good is your singing voice?
It's pretty poor. It's pretty diabolical. Do you actually want some people to listen?
Well, actually, the reason why we're joined by David Mintz today, and David is 21 today, so I thought we'd sing him happy birthday.
Go
you ready?
for it.
1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mincy. Happy birthday to you. So if you're watching this live or on replay, my apologies for my singing. I'm not sure about Gayle's. I'm sure Gayle's was fantastic.
Well, like I was saying to you off air, in my head, you see, I think I should have been a Spice Girl. I'd have looked up being in a girl group, but I can't sing, I can't dance, but maybe that doesn't exclude me. I don't know.
As David says, this is actually, David, it's not a lunchtime learning first. Lauren, the NAE president, it was Katie Griffin's birthday that day, and Lauren sang the most unbelievable happy birthday ever. It's like you're on American football, you know, at halftime, and they sing the national.
Yes.
Oh my word, Lauren was absolutely amazing, absolutely incredible. Hi Richard, thanks very much for joining as well. Appreciate it. So joined today by Gayle Audley, and we were just talking about your tennis career and how you played Sue Barker when you were 14. But for everybody watching, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm sure you're going to touch on your tennis, your Grand Slam, and everything in, and how you taught Cliff Richard to sing as well. Gayle, thanks very much for your time. I'm really grateful that you've come on today, so thank you. David Mintz is ecstatic because he got to sing happy birthday, so which was great, and he says he prefers you, so there you go.
If I'd have known, I'd have brought a cake, baked a cake as well, David. I'm sorry, I didn't know. But Stephen, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for inviting me, and everybody watching, thank you for taking the trouble to sort of tune in, and whether you're watching on catch up. I mean, you know, everybody's very busy at the moment, isn't it? So it's you know, thank you, everybody. I'm humbled and honoured. So about me, what can I say? I was born.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've never seen somebody so prepared in all my life. Okay, Mintz, I bet you don't get this on the Kerfuffle podcast, or Sam Hunter, Mark Worrell, if you're watching this, I bet you don't get your guests so prepared. I mean, I've had 4 pages of notes from Gayle. So Gayle is exceptional on leadership and obviously preparation. And what Gayle has already demonstrated is that professionals practice before they play, and they come on, and wow, that is amazing. Well done.
Like, this is your life. Well, yeah, I mean, I mean, I'll start with my tennis, I guess, because that's been a huge part of my life. It's the strapline to my business, which is Grand Slam Business Performance, which is in honour of the 4 tennis Grand Slams. So obviously Wimbledon, US Open, French and Australian. I started playing tennis when I was 11. Wimbledon was on the telly, and like a lot of people, picked up my racket and went down to a local park court. And I quite liked it. And of course, then when we all went back to school in September, a lot of the mates that I've been playing with went off and did other things. And I thought, I quite like this. So my dad took up tennis at the age of 39 to sort of play with me, and started getting coaching. And before I knew where I was sort of playing a decent level, you could say. Yes, I did play Sue Barker. I won the first set, played her at a tournament in Ilkley, and won the first set. And I'm just saying to Stephen off air, I then got frightened of winning and lost the next 2 sets. I mean, how crazy is that? And there's a big lesson there, because when you're ahead, whether it be in sport or in business, the estate agency, to me, that's when you've got to put the boot in. And it was a big lesson back in the day. So yeah, I did play Sue Barker. And then the reference to Cliff Richard, which you made, I used to teach at a tennis academy in Coventry many years ago. And Cliff used to come up to Coventry and once about every 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, and have lessons. So back in the day, they used to close the entire tennis centre. And but obviously word got out that, Cliff was in town, so to speak. And it was quite funny because there was, I'm not being sexist here, but a lot of middle-aged ladies outside with their calendars and autograph books. So that's kind of showing you how long ago it was. And for him to sign, a big tennis player. I once told him to chill out. But many people have told Cliff Richard to chill out, but yeah, I did. Well, okay. Long time ago. And still
playing to go on the summer holiday, you were right.
Pardon?
As long as you didn't tell him to go on the summer holiday.
Start singing in the rain like I did, yeah. And I still play tennis now. I mean, I would have liked to have made to have made a career out of it in terms of being a professional tennis player. The simple answer is I wasn't good enough. I did have cancer back in the day, back when I was sort of 17, 18, and that halted my career. But as I say, if I'm honest, cancer or no cancer, I wouldn't have made it because I wasn't good enough at the end of the day. But I did play, as I said, tournaments and ended up then taking my coaching qualifications and was lucky enough to make a living out of my hobby. So I've been a tennis coach for a number of years and I still do it now. So in between everything else that's going on in my life, I still do sort of 3 hours on a Saturday morning, which has been quite a challenge with COVID. If you ever try and have obviously lots of children, anywhere between the ages of 4 and 10 on a tennis court, and you're trying to get them all to sort of be socially distanced. But I love it. And it keeps me fit, but it's more than that, really. It's a bit of a way of life for me, is my tennis. And my coach, bless him, Ken, he's died now. But when he died, he left me his car and his will, which going back in the day was a mini Metro. So, but it had a private plate, and it's J3 JKJ. So that plate is on my car now. So sometimes when I turn up, people think, Gayle Audley, well, how does that work? So Ken is with me. I mean, he was a big influence on my life growing up, a huge influence on my life. And it's nice that I'm sort of carrying a little bit of him around with me wherever I go. So my tennis roots are always there. Yeah. So
finished tennis, and then what did you decide?
Well, I became a powerlifter. So
as you do after tennis.
Yeah, that's natural progression. So I joined a local gym, and the gym had quite a lot of sort of strongmen, sort of weightlifter type people there. And I always thought that as a woman, if I start lifting weights, I was going to be sort of, a bit muscly, and it perhaps wouldn't be that great. But it's not like that at all. It's fantastic. So powerlifting is squat, bench, and deadlift. So I started sort of practicing doing those things and ended up in the British Championships for powerlifting. It's all to do with your weight and your age. So obviously I was in the old bird category for my weight. So it's not like I was kind of lifting against young sort of youngsters, but it was good, yeah. So I was 6 in Great Britain for my old bird category, yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
That's amazing. So tennis, powerlifting. What's left? What's next?
Well, I mean, sport's been a big thing, and we know we have our Twitter exchanges. I'm a Man United fan. Please don't.
You don't want to say that after what happened last weekend, do you? Especially as a Spurs fan. It's the last conversation you want to have.
But sport's been a big a part of my life, whether it be watching or kind of playing, And I suppose what I do is I like to bring lessons from sport into the boardroom. That is kind of my thing, if you like, because I just think there are so many lessons that we can learn from sport. And you were talking to Jem Hills on Tuesday, and he mentioned the book Legacy by James Kerr.
Yeah, fantastic book.
Yeah, one of my favourites. And if anybody hasn't read it, or we can watch the video now as well. You don't have to read if you're not a reader. But so many lessons in there about leadership, and I just love watching sport and bringing those those lessons into the boardroom. I mean, I don't know, did you watch the French Open on the French Open final on Sunday?
No,
No.
something else was on at the time, the Grand Prix. So I don't get to watch telly. The kids are watching the telly and doing that. So Nadal won.
And Nadal, he finished on an ace. Yeah, by the way, that was my joiner.
Okay.
And I should have said, obviously, I really wanted to be behind some very intelligent-looking bookshelves, like, a lot of guests are. I've just moved house about 6 weeks ago, so my joiner is very kindly making me some intelligent bookshelves. So the only thing I've got really is a disco picture. If I move my camera there, can you see?
Yeah.
Want a disco? Yeah.
Come on then. So, let's go.
You what?
Let's go. Let's disco.
Yeah. Let's go. That's in homage to Sophie Ellis-Bextor. She did the lockdown disco, and and music. I do love music. I have music on if I'm working and dancing around the kitchen and stuff. So yeah, I haven't got intelligent bookshelves, but I've got that. What was I talking about?
You talk about legacy and lessons from sport in the boardroom. So let's talk about lessons in sport and what you can bring into a boardroom then. Yeah. And then I want to talk about how you found your house sale and purchase and going through. That'd be interesting as well.
Okay. Yeah, it was interesting being on the other side. Yeah, I was talking about the French Open, wasn't I? And you had Nadal and Djokovic in the final. And my son said to me, it's always them two in the final. And if you think the longevity for those two to play at the level that they're playing at, and it got me thinking, and the TV coverage, they did some footage of Nadal back in 2005. And in 2005, he had a different service action. He stood in a different place on the court to return the serve. And of course, in comparison to what he does now. And it just made me think that they've both adapted. They've both adapted to, because of their age. I mean, what happens now with Nadal, he actually stands further back for the return of serve because he's older. So it takes him that fraction of a second longer to sort of read the ball to be able to hit it. I'd be at the other end, out of the court and down the other side. But, they've adapted. And I think that is a huge part of business, isn't it? An estate agency, particularly the times we're living in at the moment. If you're a business and you're not prepared to adapt and change, then you're in trouble more than anything. So adaptability, consistency is the other thing. I mean, they've been consistently at the top of their game. And again, in business, you don't particularly want to necessarily be a one-hit wonder. You want to kind of have systems and processes in place that are going to keep you consistently at the top of your game. And again, go back to my lesson with Sue Barker. When you're at the top of your game, that's almost when you want to turn the screw, put the heat up, and kick ass a little bit. To me, there are too many people in this world that are a bit complacent, and there's no room for complacency in sport and in business. So it's about being prepared. It's about sending you my life story. This is your life. I should have put it in
This is literally your life. Eamon Andrews would have been incredible.
Eamon Holmes, yeah.
Eamon Andrews and Mike Aspel would be incredibly prepared. Well, I've got a few. Vicky, thanks very much for joining us. Loving the crown. Let's go, Gayle. Sarah Edmondson, Gayle is a superstar. Love her tennis analogies too. Sharon Carter, hi guys. Sorry I'm late, but I'm glad I made it. Well, thanks very much all of you for joining me. Give Gayle loads of love and stars and likes and.
I need love. We need love in the world, and this is what I'm saying. I'm going back to you. You won the award, and I know a few people were a bit bar humbug on Twitter and say, no, it's a bit of a pat on the back and things like that. But do you know what? I take my hat off. Well, I would take my crown off to Peter Knight, but it brings people together, and he's celebrating success. We all need some good news in these times, don't we? I've just been speaking with, I work with law firms as well. I've just been speaking with a law firm sort of down in London, and she was feeling a bit cheesed off today, a little bit. You could just tell in her voice, she just didn't quite have that spark. And, I don't know about you, Stephen, but, I have my ups and down days with COVID, and we're all a bit, so let's just have a bit of good news and, stop being bar humbug, basically.
Thank you. There you go. Sharon now wants a crown.
Yeah. Everybody should have a crown, really. Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Definitely. So, Sarah, I always think complacency in sport and business is the most obvious and frequently seen downfall. So, follow up from that. How can you kick complacency out in touch? Using the rugby analogy, because you brought up Legacy and James Kerr and the New Zealand rugby team. So, what can people do watching this to kick complacency in touch? How can you become more consistent? Because again, I had another fantastic guest on here, Pete Wilkinson, and I asked him what elite looks like, and I'll ask the same question to you actually in a minute, what elite performance looks like. And his final one was do the basics exceptionally well, day in, day out. Yeah,
I completely agree. My tennis coach used to say to me, do the simple things well. And and again, that stuck with me in tennis, in powerlifting. Some people just overcomplicate things. And if I sort of link it to a estate agency, I think estate agency is quite simple, really. Okay. You break it down, it's lead generation, lead conversion, and customer fulfillment. End of. Right. So as a business, as an agency, you need to make sure you have a strategy for lead generation. You need to make sure you have a strategy for lead conversion, and you need to have a strategy for customer fulfillment. That's it. Do the basics better than anybody else. You asked about sort of how do people not be complacent. You've got to want it. You've got to want it really badly. And my youngest son is 16. I haven't got a clue what he wants to do with his life. And he's been class of COVID this year with the GCSEs being cancelled and things like that. And he's now at college. But he didn't have a clue what he wants to do. And I said to him, son, what do you enjoy? Apart from my Yorkshire puddings. What do you enjoy in life? And it's sport. Okay. So something's rubbed off on there. So he's gone to college and he's doing a sports course, because I sort of believe that if you follow your passion and you follow what you're good at and what you enjoy, the money will come. If you're trying to sort of put a square peg into a round hole, you're going to be pretty rubbish at your job and what you do. Years and years ago, I used to, obviously I'm a northern girl, you can probably tell.
Yeah. Couldn't tell that.
Should have had my Yorkshire tea, but very staunch Yorkshire.
Are you near Betty's tea house?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I could be in Betty's. I live just outside York now in my new house. Okay, so I could be in Betty's in York in about 20 minutes.
And that's an interesting place, isn't it? Because my understanding is, I'm not sure whether it's open or not, and they're still doing the teas because of the situation, obviously. But the staff have to line up in the morning and they check two things: their fingernails to make sure they're clean, and to make sure they've got clean shoes as well. So it's a lovely place to go. So they've got standards. So again, what standards do exceptional estate agents have?
Absolutely. They've just got, as I say, they've got to do the basics really, really well, haven't they? Yeah. But they've got to want it. What it's like if you're talking to somebody who isn't interested in you particularly, and what and they're just saying all the things like "have a nice day," but they're not really meaning it. There's no sincerity. You're going to come across as fake, aren't you? Yeah. You mentioned my estate agent who I told you in my biography. So I moved 6 weeks ago, and I can give him a shout out. I was on the market in Boroughbridge with Williamson's, and a lovely young man called Spencer was my estate agent. Didn't particularly know him beforehand. Did a great job, I think, in terms of sort of getting viewers for the house, keeping us updated, that sort of thing. Of course, COVID hit and viewings were off. But he was asking questions about me, about what I was looking for in a property. And he knew I was kind of looking around, obviously, when the estate agency restrictions eased. And he just took the trouble to find out. And then he emailed me one day about this place and basically said it was rented out through a friend of his. The friend was looking to put it on the market, and he said, from what you've told me, I think it's pretty much up your street. Are you interested in a viewing? Yes, please. And I ended up buying the house. Now, so when people say they don't need an estate agent and they control the portals and things themselves, I wouldn't have known that this house was available until it actually would have gone live on the portals. So it gave me the heads up, beforehand, really. So I had a chance to. I'm in a little place called Sutton on the Forest. It's beautiful. It's just outside York. I didn't even know where Sutton on the Forest was. So I've never actually been here before, but it gave me a chance to have a drive around to the village, see how that fitted in with Gabriel's college. That's my son. And I thought, do you know what? Yeah, this is a really, really good place. So what Spencer did is he took the trouble to find out and ask questions. I often say when I'm working with estate agents, don't be a slave to your computer. You can tell when somebody's going through the motions, can't you? How many bedrooms?
Yeah.
And it's like, please, really? Find out about the person, find out about what makes them tick. And if you've done that, then when, obviously he obviously come to do a market appraisal here, and he obviously thought, yeah, Gayle will probably like this house. And it's almost going back to good old-fashioned estate agency, isn't it? It's I started my career at Countrywide back in Solihull in the West Midlands, and we used to have a hot box. But also it was BC, before computers, not before COVID, and of course the hot box, for those young people watching that might not know, I'm not being rude. It literally was like a little Tupperware box that we had with little cards on, and you'd write all your applicants' names down. But you knew them, didn't you? Yeah. You knew, you knew your people, you knew your customers. So how can estate agents be exceptional? Just find out about your customers, find out what they want. Don't just collect a load of data. I have agents who'll say, oh yeah, we've got 600 applicants registered in my name. I mean, I remember being in an agent when we were allowed on site and things like that. And I go, right, well, who's going to buy that property there? Pointing to one of their things on the wall. I said, you're telling me you've got 600 applicants personally registered to you, but not one of them's going to buy that property. Give me your top 5 applicants. I still think we should the agents should know that sort of stuff. And if you don't know it, have a word with yourself. So
we are part of the same school. I couldn't agree more with you. I do that loads and loads of times. Right, what property are you going to see today? I'm going to see this. Right, tell me who's going to buy it. Tell me who's going to buy it. And people can't answer that question, and you need to know your buyers. And for me, Spencer, that was great agency. Absolutely,
he did a great job.
He knew what you were looking for. He found the property, and that's brilliant. And maybe you actually paid more money for the property because you knew that was a property that you wanted to buy.
Absolutely.
And, again, maybe that vendor could argue, well, hold on a second, nobody's seen it. They're not getting the best price for it. But actually, you know what you wanted, and maybe you did pay more money as a result of it because actually it stopped everybody else seeing it. You got the home that you wanted and you were ready to go. So for me, I think that is exceptional agency, and more agents should be doing that the whole time.
I agree with that. It gets me a bit cross because to me it's basics, to get the basics right in life. And you might have your fancy computers and systems and things like that. I love technology. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big believer in technology and ways of innovating and doing things. But sometimes, having all these fancy systems, agents become data collectors, don't they? They become administrators. Well, I'm going to press a button. I'm going to see what property match is going to... Rubbish. Because Spencer knew that I wanted parking, for example. It's a cottage. It's built in 1850. Didn't have parking in 1850 necessarily. So a lot of the properties I was looking at, it was all on street parking and and things. Well, I've got parking around the back here. I've got my garden.
Tennis court.
Pardon?
Your tennis court.
Tennis court, powerlifting, yeah, it's all there. It's all out here. Sue's waiting for a game. She's looking, she's limbering up.
Well, sadly, she's no longer on Question of Sport, so she needs a little bit of competition.
Absolutely, but no, I think what makes an elite person is doing the basics well. And an estate agency, find out about your staff. If you've got a load of people on your database and you don't know who's going to buy that property, you don't know their stories. People like talking about themselves, don't they? You know, and if you give them an inch, they'll start talking. And I think if you're interested, but again, if you're fake interested, it will come across as fake. So you've got to be genuine, and I think that will really help people to go where they need to go.
There you go. I think Sharon was at the same school as ours. So 100% believe estate agents should never rely on CRM techno and should still ring out, still know their apps and make it happen.
Absolutely, John. And, you know, it's Josh Vegan, isn't it? He talked about having a fit database, not necessarily a fact database.
Yeah.
And a fit database, to me, you know, will do the job for you. I'd rather have one applicant who's going to buy one house than 600 applicants who are not going to buy that house.
Oh, this is going back. So going back at my days at Green & Co, 25, however long. Yeah. So we had there a 10-day rule. So any applicants that we registered, we could, as long as we kept in contact with for 10 days, they would be our applicants. Yep. So I just decided, right, the smartest way is let's keep in touch with all these people, make sure they never go out of date. So I would have my diary and it would have God knows how many, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 people every day. And I was calling through the list for the whole time. Yeah. And then I thought, hold on a second, that's not smart. That's stupid. Okay. So I need to know my 5 hottest buyers who's going to buy it. And that's it. Okay. And then what I actually became, they gave me a certificate gave me the certificate Chief Applicant Nicker. What I would do is I would follow people who would go out of date by one day, who I thought were hot because they made an offer on a property, it wasn't accepted, they were out viewing, and I would nick them and then they would buy. So that would really upset everybody. But then it was like, actually now I'm being smart, you know, and I ended up, I was always in the top 1 or 2 of fee owners every year. And it's, you know, but you had to know your buyers. And we had one person at Green & Company, Cornelius. So he did £400,000 in fees one year. And bear in mind, this is in London, so, you know, the fees are whatever. 75% of his deals were off market. So I used to come back off a market appraisal and he'd go, right, Stephen, where you been? I go, here. So he goes, do you mind if I call the owner? I've got a buyer for it. No, you do that. Stephen, right, that's sold. What's the next one you're going to see? But he knew who his buyers were. He listened. And then he gave me nightmares because I had to get all his sales through. So he goes, here you go, Steve, another sale for you. Make sure you get it through for me. No pressure.
Absolutely. And you mentioned listening there, and that's really important. Stephen Covey's 5th habit, isn't it? Seek first to understand and then to be understood. In my opinion, that's the most important habit. And you've got to listen. You can listen and watch and really understand them, and then like you say, you can hopefully have this great business relationship. You linking it back to sport, and you talk about elite behaviour and things like that. I don't know who it was that said that performance, that there's a bit of a formula, isn't there? Performance is capability times behaviour. You'll have heard that before. Performance is capability times behaviour. Now that's the same, really. You could argue, as I say, sport, business, anything. So I think capability. Okay, so have the staff got the capability to do the job? So are they able to, can they generate leads, convert them into new business and give the customer a great time so it will drive recommendations and referrals at the end of the day? So that's the responsibility of the estate agent to seek out that training and development and the company to do that. But the other bit is behaviour. And behaviour is an interesting one. It's because you can give somebody all the tools to do the job, can't you? All the fancy equipment and things. But if their behaviour isn't if their mindset isn't right, then they're not going to go out and have those engaging conversations. They're not going to be able to do it because they're not being true to themselves. So I sort of think one thing that agents and sports people, Sue Barker and Cliff and whatever, can do is you work on your mindset. Get your mindset right, because that's something that you can do. And I know at the minute it's tough with COVID and with lockdown. I know it's really tough at the moment. It's my boyfriend lives in Portugal. I've not seen him since March in the flesh, so it's a tough old time out there. But get your mindset right. And talking about mindset, I think that kind of links me to the belief system. And sometimes our beliefs can be a bit skewed. And if our beliefs are skewed, and that's our mindset, it can affect our behaviour. Now, I sound like I'm rambling, but let me try and explain. So if we've got any children, do you believe in Father Christmas, Stephen?
When I was about 9 or 10.
Yeah. So
not in my 50s.
Suppose. So we've got any children?
Yes, I do. Yes, yeah. I do.
You've got to turn off in a minute. But, I hate to break it to you all, but Father Christmas is fake. It doesn't exist, okay? It's a big conspiracy that all parents and everybody in the, the world has kind of like built up. And even if your faith doesn't allow you to sort of believe in Father Christmas, if you think about it, I don't know about you, I've got 2 boys. And, I used to say to them when they were little, you've got to be good boys, otherwise Father Christmas won't come. So I was trying to influence their behaviour on a fake belief. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I think we all kind of do that, but you need to try and put that into context now, into like sort of grown-up context. Is our behaviour being influenced by a fake belief? Okay, because perhaps our mindset isn't quite right. When I was growing up, I was never great at maths. I wasn't awful at it, but I was never great at it. And I remember sometimes when you start taking estate agency management jobs and things, I used to get a bit scared of all the figures initially, because my past was my belief system was like, I'm rubbish at maths. Yeah, but it's not that necessarily rubbish at maths. It's just that my belief system was giving me a skewed belief, and it was making me behave in a certain way. Yeah, so I would say to everybody out there, are you acting in a certain way because your belief system is skewing you in the wrong way? So you've got to get your behaviour right. So performance is capability times behaviour. So capability, we can do something about. Behaviour, it's up to the individual to do something about.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to Sarah, because she's made a point on the database, and Sharon's made some points as well. So we'll come back to you two. We haven't forgotten you. Just want to talk about mindset and belief. Yeah. So, you shared some stuff that what you've been going through, and I know what I'm going through at the moment is a roller coaster and incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
And, from me speaking to you and our Twitter conversations, you're an incredibly positive, got an incredible mindset, and people don't actually know, your story. And, I haven't shared my story, so people don't know it. But how can you, when you're going through challenging times, be resilient, have a, I suppose, a growth mindset as well. Yeah. Have the beliefs that actually, hopefully tomorrow is going to be better, even though today's shit. Can you get that mindset? Can you get that belief, or is that something, how can you work on it?
It's bloody hard. No question about it. Absolutely hard. And the one thing that's helped me is, look for something positive in every day. And mine is my 2 boys, without a doubt. I would be wrestling the underneath of a bus if it wasn't for them 2, because they have given me a reason to keep going and to keep putting one foot in front of the other. So I think it's look around, and I started cycling during lockdown because gyms were shut, and tennis was off the agenda as well. We're back playing now, but it was off the agenda. So I started cycling, and I live in North Yorkshire, and what a beautiful part of the world. And I didn't actually realise how lovely it is. And cycling along, and I started to stop, because we all rush. I'm as guilty as everybody. I'm rushing from one thing to another. And as I'm cycling along, I suddenly started to stop and just look at the fields and the trees and the birds. Sounds a bit crass, but just have a look. Just and it's like, wow, actually there's beauty out there. You know, whether it's walking your dog. I haven't got a dog, but if you've got a dog, walking your dog, or looking at the flowers, or just looking at a picture of my two boys, and thinking, you know what? Yeah, life is a bit shit, and there's a lot of rubbish things that are going on at the moment, but there's also a lot of good stuff going on. And I think you have got to then try and focus on that good stuff, and just stop sometimes. You know, give yourself permission to get off the hamster wheel and go, do you know what? Today's a bit shit, and I'm going to eat loads of crisps and maybe, you know, not eat as healthy as I should do, and just don't beat yourself up about the bad days sometimes, because you know, the phrase that storms don't last forever. And where I used to live, there was a pub, and I remember again going on one of my cycle rides and stopping and all that sort of stuff. And it was right in lockdown, and the landlord was sat outside, and he was clearly really, really hacked off because of, you know, his business was about to go down the drain. He just didn't know what was going on, and really, really upset. And what do you say, you know, to somebody like that that's going through those tough times? And I just said, you know, it's often always darkest before the dawn. And I just said, storms don't last forever. And the next day when I cycled past it, put it on the blackboard outside his pub, storms don't last forever. And he'd drawn the rainbow, you know, like the NHS rainbow. And I just thought, you know, well, maybe you know, it learns from me. I don't know. And so, yeah, I would just say focus on what is going well. And don't focus on necessarily what isn't going well. And it's the same in business. You know, if I'm doing reviews and appraisals and things with clients, I think all too often we tend to work on our weaknesses. Well, you can also work on your strengths. You can enhance and establish skill. You can get better at something that you're good at. In fact, to be honest, you'll probably be more motivated to do that. You know, when I was playing tennis, my forehand was always a lot better than my backhand. So if Ken said we're going to practice forehand today, you know, you still practice the stuff that you're good at, don't you? So when things are tough, yeah, just maybe have a look at what is going well, and just try and focus on that. And just remember that storms don't last forever. That's
lovely.
What I can say, really.
Lovely. So just coming back. Sharon, wish I was fit, not fat. Need to work on that. And now my PT has cancelled tomorrow's session. Oh well, chock a as it is. Sharon, I can still picture some of my app cards who were regular buyers, fab clients, colour link I had used, and the doodles I scribbled on them. And that was from a long time ago. Yeah. Sarah, we need to be careful though with this database discussion, in my opinion. There are two parts, active and dormant, and we must make sure we effectively mature and market to the ones who might not be buying, selling, letting right now, but completely agree with getting on the phone to the hotties. Sarah, totally in agreement with you, 100%.
Me too.
And Sharon agrees with that. I use ActivePipe to send out information, useful emails, which go out to everyone, even if they're not doing anything right now. And we'll still make intermittent calls to non-active applicants. And, you know, I'm a firm believer that you've got to have a proper stay in touch policy. You're in it for the long term, not for the short term as well. So 100%, Sarah, totally agree. So I'm interested, how did you go from agency to the leadership training for Property Mark and the Law Society?
It was a natural progression, really. If I've been a tennis coach, I thought, you know, if I've taught people how to do a topspin serve or a drop shot, I can actually teach them to sell. And so my job when I was employed, my final job when I was employed, I worked for Hunters. I was a branch manager in Wetherby, and then I was their training manager at a time when they were just looking at franchising. So it was a really exciting time, and all credit to everything that they've achieved. At that time, I kept being asked privately, would I work with other agents? I obviously couldn't because it was a conflict of interest. So I decided to set up on my own, really. And that's what I've done. And of course, you set up on your own, don't you? Then think back, the phone's going to ring. And of course, it doesn't. So all these agents, I'm like, well, where were you? You said you wanted some training or some consultancy. So it took a while. And yeah, it's built up, and now I work in a sort of an outsourced commercial director / consultancy capacity with a lot of agents up and down the country. We're just doing some great work. I feel so privileged to be sort of involved with some of the decisions that people make. Property Mark, I'm one of their trainers, and again run the leadership and management programs for them, because it's what I did. It's what I did as an estate agent, kind of thing. The law comes in, it's what I studied at uni. I did law, so it seemed a natural kind of progression and I've always kind of worked in that industry. So again, it's this. One of my clients asked me recently about this. Do you get big, get niche, get out? How far? So what I've done is I've stuck to two lots of industries that I know well: the estate agency industry, because it's what I've done for years and years, and the law industry, because again, that's what I've done, and my tennis. So it's great, and they all overlap. Because the leadership challenges that a firm of solicitors are having is exactly the same as the leadership challenges in an estate agency world, and I just think it sort of brings a bit more to the table, really. I'm very proud of one of my law firms, because it was the Law Society's awards this week, and so JD Spicer Zeb. Woo! Not that I'm competitive at all, but it's really good when one of your law firms wins. So I'm absolutely thrilled for them, and yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm very competitive. I want my agents, my law firms, to be the best.
Brilliant. I wonder where you got that from. I also want to say thank you, because I know you've recently become a mentor at Agents Together, and I know Sarah's very grateful, and I know all the founders are very grateful for you getting involved. So thank you very much. Why did you decide to get involved? And whether it's a mentor for Agents Together, why do you think? I mean, actually, if we relate it to sport, if you look at all the top sportsmen, they all have coaches. Whether it's a nutrition coach, whether it's a mindset coach, whatever it is. So thank you, because that's amazing what you're doing, and we're really grateful. So there's two questions in one for you.
Well, like you say, when you're at the top of your game, you need to kick ass, don't you? So it's an absolute honour to be involved. I just think I've gone through the school of hard knocks. I can tell you how not to do it. All the lessons, that I've learned and done, so just I'm interested. I'm naturally curious with people, so I like asking questions. I like sort of finding out what makes people tick. I think I'm able to ask those questions. I say to my mentees, I'm not going to tell you the answers. I'm not, what shall I do? Well, we ask questions and we find out, and it becomes like a coaching conversation. I just want to, it sounds a bit crass, but it's true. I want to give something back. And I enjoy seeing people succeed, which hence I'm wearing the crown in your honour because of your award. I actually love seeing people succeed and do well. So I get a boost from it. And that's why I do it. So I just hope that perhaps I could make a difference to somebody, that they might then go on to have maybe a little bit of a better career or a little bit of a better life, because often the stuff we talk about when you're mentoring isn't necessarily business related, or isn't always business related. Sometimes it's to do with life as well. So it just gives me a bit of a buzz to just see people do well, and that's what I want.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again. Look, I'm really conscious of time, and I'm really grateful for the time you've given. So one final question.
Yes.
If you were starting again, being an estate agent, what lessons would you do, or what would you be doing differently now to when you first started your career in agency?
I'd take a risk. I'd believe in myself more. I'd back myself. I think I was a bit too shy in the early days. Sometimes I didn't perhaps just ask. So for example, if you're on a viewing, for example, if I'm on a viewing now, because I still work in the industry, I help a friend, and because I think it's important to still work in the industry, like if I'm on a viewing now, I'd say, well, what do you think it's worth? going to make an offer then. I'd be a bit cheeky. Whereas actually back then I'd go, okay, well, I'll give you a ring. I remember doing my first viewing. This is the kitchen. This is the lounge. I mean, no shit, Sherlock, you know. So I'd back myself and I'd take a risk and I'd be a little bit cheekier.
Okay.
Maybe that's just old age coming in. Maybe I'd wear my crown on my viewing. What do you think? Think that would?
Well, it definitely make you different and be a talking point and get, and that's what you want. You want to start something actually. So, Gayle,
stand out for the right reasons,
yeah, you know, why have you started something now? Sharon said, bring on the crowds. every estate agent, if you start seeing estate agents wearing crowns, we know what you started.
But,
great. So Sharon says, thank you. Your energy is infectious. P.S. Love your accent. You've been brilliant. 45 minutes has absolutely flown by. I mean,
we didn't have to mention any of this stuff on here, did we?
There you go. But it demonstrated, you know, preparation is key. You know, you've done all your work, you've done all your research. What was really interesting as well. Hi, David. Thanks for joining us. I got asked by somebody to do they wanted to do an interview with me, and they asked 5 questions, but the questions they asked were all, so you could tell they had listened to my podcasts, the lunchtime learnings, because they were all related to certain things that had happened. And that to me was great, because that demonstrated, wow, you know, they've taken time to prepare some information, learn about that person. So likewise, you know, if you're going on a market appraisal, what are you doing to learn about the person's house that you're going to go and see? You know, how much do you know about them? What research do you know? Have you actually Googled you or LinkedIn or Facebooked you to see whether there's anything in common as well? I mean, preparation is amazing. So you have definitely won the crown or the tiara for the most prepared guest on Lunchtime Learnings.
I'll take that.
You've also won the crown for singing to David Mintz on his 21st birthday today. So congratulations on your achievements. Thanks very much for joining me. I'm really, really grateful. Thank you all for joining today and for watching on replay. Next week, I'm going to be joined by Michael Donaghy, who's got an agency in Aylesbury, who's been in the industry for a number of years. I won't embarrass him by saying it's over 30, 40, or maybe a bit more, because he looks a lot younger. And then Oliver James is going to be joining me next Thursday. Oliver's done incredibly well. He's built up a new agency in a new area, and within a year, he's market leader. Got the best market share, which is fantastic. He's built a fantastic Facebook community. He also does loads of videos and vlogs, which is fantastic. So looking forward to having them. Sharon says, thanks, Stephen. Fab as always. Have a good PM all. Oh, you're lovely, Sharon. You can come on again as well. Sharon was another great guest. Phenomenal story. Gayle, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. Really grateful for your time. You have a lovely afternoon, and everyone else as well. Thank you.
You too. Bye for now.